Hey everybody, welcome to conversation number 3, to just have the conversation. So the last time we actually talked about Juneteenth, and I was talking about how I didn't really know a lot about it, and we said that maybe we could talk about some information that we came across to explain a little bit behind what Juneteenth is. So there's a lot of really good information out there.
Yes.
Now, before we were kind of talking, and you were talking to me about the North and the South and like that whole situation. So why don't we start there? Because I feel like that is really good information because it kind of all ties down to what Juneteenth means. And then I have some other stuff to ask because I was looking for the information and then something else came up and I was like, what the?
Exactly.
We'll just start here.
Yeah. Okay.
With the information that you came up with.
Okay. So with the Emancipation Proclamation, right? So what that was all about was as we discussed in conversation number 2, so the Union soldiers, when they, got to Texas and they told the enslaved people, hey, you're free, you're good to go, right? Mm-hmm. So the way, to backtrack a little bit, so you had like southern states that felt that things should be run a certain way, and you had northern states that felt things should be run a certain way.
Okay.
So the northern states were the Union.
Okay.
Southern states were referred to in the proclamation actually as the rebellious states. It's also known as the Confederacy. Okay. So those states at the time were not as nice to the enslaved people, because all the states had enslaved people.
Okay.
Right? Maybe not all, but I'm just saying it wasn't like only
majority. Yeah.
But in the North, Black people had a better chance at freedom and, owning property or a business or, something like that.
Okay.
In the South, it was like extremely, extremely difficult and very rare.
Okay.
So that's the whole North-South thing, right? So when the Union won the war, basically those southern states became part of, the United States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
one right here.
So if you think about it, during that time, those people, if they're fighting in a war, right, because they think that things should be run this way, but the North thinks things should be run this way, and then they lose, they're not going to be happy.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And they're going to try to continue to live life the way they think that it should be.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of the tension is, and why like it has continued into 2020 is because it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
So you're going to have that split. So you're going to have a difference between liberals and conservatives and North, and there's a whole history about it. Even like the colleges that have rivalries. Mm-hmm. A lot of that stuff goes way back when. So that's another conversation.
This is the reason why the flag, the Confederate flag, was I think it was like a bill, or I don't know what, but it was passed that it needed to be taken out, right? Not too long ago.
So recently it's been banned in different places.
Banned, that's the word I was trying to say. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been a bill, because that's something I haven't looked at, but now I'm going to look it up because I want to know.
I don't know if it was a bill, but I've been hearing about it because I know that the NASCAR, that was the big issue because it's such a big thing to have when you go to NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people were having a lot of issues with it being banned there. And then like the whole thing with the news happened with the driver. So I think, I mean, it probably wasn't a bill. I just heard about it. I just made it a bill.
Emily made it a bill. And it shall be.
I know.
So with the rebel flag, and so some of this is information that I know, it's factual, and some of it is my personal opinion. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. Personal opinions, guys.
Okay. So the rebel flag represents the rebellious states, which are the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those southern states. And I'm kind of generalizing. Okay. So it's kind of like if I came to your house and I took over your house,
mm-hmm.
and combined it with my house, and you wanted to continue to have up, your name, right? Mm-hmm. Your last name. Mm-hmm. But since I took over, your name is now my last name. Let's say it's Smith, right?
Right.
But you continue to use it, right? And so it's kind of like that. It's kind of like, well, okay, the South didn't fare well, but they still want to fly their flag. But what the flag represents to people of color, I cannot talk about people, white people or anyone else, but people of color. Mm-hmm. What that represents is the mindset that slavery is okay, that people of color are less than, that people of color must surrender or be submissive to white people, because that's what it represented back in the day. Mm-hmm. So when you go to a sporting event and you see someone waving that flag, they're basically telling you what their mindset is. Mm-hmm. Which is okay as far as they can think what they want. But when that mindset generally comes with violence, disrespect, just being rude, and all these other negative actions, then it can be very uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that everyone that wants to fly that flag is that way. Mm-hmm. But it would be like if you had Jewish people in an auditorium and some people came in with, swastikas. Mm-hmm. Because that symbolizes something that represents a certain mindset.
Wow, that was like the perfect visual right there.
Thank you. Because I was having trouble like kind of explaining it, but that's why it's important. And if you notice, so the flag was banned in NASCAR, right? They said you can't come here waving that flag. We want everyone to feel comfortable. Majority of NASCAR was okay with it.
Right. Exactly.
But then someone decides to hang a noose in Bubba Wallace's garage. Mm-hmm. He didn't see it. One of his teammates saw it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I'm thankful he didn't see it, because it's that has to be horrifying to see something like that. Right. So when you think about, okay, someone's going to basically hang a noose, which is a threat. Mm-hmm. That's a threat. That's saying, this is what I think of your life. You don't deserve to live. That, if you were here, this is what I would like to do to you. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So someone taking that kind of action to hang a noose just for banning a flag is bad.
Horrible.
Yeah. And it's not like they're saying you can't have the flag, in your house. You can't, have it on your truck or whatever. You just can't bring it to the stands, right? So to me, that's a really like aggressive reaction to something like that.
Okay.
And well, anyway, go ahead.
No, that's actually because I knew that the flag meant something negative.
Uh-huh.
I never really went into deep about it. I knew it had to do with some type of like racial, discrimination or whatever, but I never studied it and I never knew what was behind it. So the way that you just explained it to right now was perfect, because if that is the reaction that a Black person's going to have to it, it definitely does not need to be anywhere, and it should be banned, and a bill should be put out there. Anybody that's in the government that's watching this, it should be banned for life. Like I just feel like that is so disrespectful. It's minimizing other people's feelings, and I'm not for that in any type of way.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not, and in my personal opinion, it's not erasing anyone's history or heritage to say, hey, you can't have that here.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
And I mean, at the same time, what if it does mean some type of history for your family? What kind of history are you passing down?
Right.
It goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Everything starts at home. So whatever it is that you're teaching to your children at your house is what they're going to be out in the world. So if that's something that's going to be promoting violence and promoting anything type of negative anything, then it definitely shouldn't be something that is out there so visual for everyone to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, well, some of the things that I learned about this, I felt like I was in history class, but I actually like history now. So some of the things that I learned was that 47 states actually recognize it as a national holiday.
Okay.
There's only 3 states that don't, and I'm about to call them out right now. And that's Hawaii and North and South Dakota.
Okay.
Then it actually became a public event, and it was put in the calendars for everybody to know that it was an event in 1872. And anybody that's watching this and they cross-check my information, if it ain't true, let me know, because I'm just going with what I heard.
Okay.
And then in 1872, a group of former slaves gathered $1,000, and they bought 10 acres of land, and that is where they held their first Juneteenth at the Emancipation Park.
Awesome.
Which is pretty crazy. And the flag is red, white, and blue. And that is my presentation for today.
You get an A+.
Which is, pretty good information. I mean, I didn't know this before. But then I was reading through actually what happened, because I was like, I wonder what made it, like what started it. And I actually watched a video on YouTube, and it was, I think it was CNN that posted it on there. I forgot who it was. But they talked about how there was an African man that got into an elevator with a white woman that was, I guess, going up and down the elevator. And then
are you talking about
wait. No, I'm talking about something different. That's the one that I was going to tell you about right now. It's not Juneteenth. It's about because I typed in Juneteenth, and then it took me to something else. It took me to the Black Wall Street.
Okay.
Which that is something that I also didn't know about. That blew my mind, because, oh my God, I was still going the wrong way. Now I'm going the right way, but thank you for that. It just goes how history can be erased by a group of people and nobody could question it.
Yeah.
So that whole story that I was just saying with the guy getting in the elevator with the woman, that's what started the riots in Tulsa.
Yes. Which
it is ridiculous to, just because this, what was said was this woman said that she got assaulted by this gentleman, and that's what started
he grabbed her. He touched her. It wasn't even like, because when we use the word assault nowadays,
you're very right.
you know,
he like sexually assaulted her or something.
Right.
Okay, so something happened.
Black people weren't supposed to touch white women.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a no-no.
So then something happened. She said something happened in the elevator,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was going to get lynched. And there was a crowd of other Black men that came in to talk to the officers, and on their way out, because they actually came to help and say, hey, we can stay here until everything gets sorted out. And then the cops were like, no, 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 no. So they were leaving. And then somebody confronted them. And then that's when like everything happened. And then the rioting happened.
All hell broke loose.
All hell broke loose, which is, you know, it's so crazy how people now are, you know, oh, riots, how can they be doing this? They're animals, they're this, they're that. But if they actually did a little digging, like I literally just did now, you're able to find out the riots have been happening for the longest time, and it wasn't just Black people doing them.
Well, but Black people aren't really rioting.
True. Well, I mean, right now with the riots, it's a lot of Black people, but they're not looting. There's like not a lot of Black people looting, and I think that.
But there's a difference between a riot and a protest.
Ah, see, to me,
that's the difference. And this is what has been happening for hundreds of years, is that things are explained one way to the public.
Mm-hmm. That
like,
very...
you know, this kid, you know, touched a white woman, right?
Right.
Touched her. That's the claim.
Right.
We'll never know what happened. But the claim was he touched her.
Right.
Right? Not that he grabbed her, not that he wrestled her to the ground, not that he, you know, grabbed her and kissed, he touched her. Right? Mm-hmm. So that gets blown out of proportion.
Right.
So like with the riots, it's the same thing. It's peaceful protesting, and then the people that were rioting, it was people that came in that were not part of the protest that started the vandalism. And then the younger group that didn't really understand everything that was going on. And it was people of all races, Black, white, you know, Latino, whatever, that were looting.
Right. Yeah.
In the evening, you know, closer towards the end of the days. But in general, the protests were peaceful.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Thank you for bringing that point up.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
There is a difference, people. There's a difference in the words that you use. But what ended up happening was that 40 acres were burned down to the ground, and basically that whole history. And these are like thriving workplaces that they had.
Oh yeah, they had restaurants. They had 2 movie theaters.
They
had 6 private airplanes.
Yeah, so they were like wealthy Black Americans. And everything was taken away from them. And they also talked about there were 300 Black Americans that ended up losing their life. And it was women, children, and men. They didn't care. And to me, that's pretty crazy, because I also did not learn that anywhere other than right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. The one thing that, like, I mean, the whole thing was horrible. But the one thing that surprised me that I never heard of was that they actually dropped a bomb on Black Wall Street.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it. I didn't get that. That's crazy.
They came through with everything they had to just demolish, and it literally burned down that town.
I know they actually showed a video of the before and after, and it's pretty crazy. And now, unfortunately, you know, everybody that's there, and the guy that's doing the interview, he says, you know, like their heritage, their wealth was basically demolished. And if it wasn't for that, he knows that the people that lived there could have thrived and been part of the 1% wealthy America that's in right now, but they were robbed from that. And they also talked about how now it's, you know, most of the majority of crimes that are there are done by African Americans. The majority of people that are in jail are African Americans. And it's just like in a second how people can be robbed of their future.
Yeah.
I think that was like the one thing that impacted me, because nothing happened. I mean, if that were to happen now, for somebody to come into the United States, anywhere in the United States, and just, you know, if there was a bomb dropped on there, drop a bomb and demolish a whole town, we wouldn't just be like, oh, okay, it happened. Let's keep going. What are we building there next? You know what I mean? Like,
that wouldn't, yeah. And then
so
how are you, so the thing is, how are they supposed to like rebuild after that?
Right. And if you really think about it, like if maybe half of the people that were Black there died because there was 300 people, then, you know, how many people were left to rebuild?
Right. And how many people had the perseverance to rebuild? Or, you know, I mean, if the people that remained, I'm sure lost family members.
Yeah, for
lost
sure.
Their business, lost their job, their home. So how do you recover? You know, you're mourning your loss of your family and friends, and then you're expected to like rebuild after something that horrific. Knowing what can happen if you do rebuild and you get, you know, going again. How are you supposed to go on, you know?
You know, it's crazy. I feel like with the conversations that we're having right now, there have been so many injustice done to the Black community that nobody knows about. And it's hard to have these conversations because, you know, like I said, we don't get educated on them. So, you know, the research and the information, like I had to go and research for it in order for me to understand what is it that you guys are feeling right now. Because before it was, yes, I feel for you because I'm your friend and I love you. But now it's like, how would I react to my family members, my, you know, race being attacked and being basically pushed down time after time after time. And it's pretty crazy. And I actually had a conversation with Kevin this morning, and he was telling me about a story, and I forgot what the story was. And he was like, you know, it's so crazy to me how much the Black community has gone through. And, you know, I feel like if you put other races other than white people next to the Black community, we have gone through some of the things, some of the same, you know, racism and whatever else that you guys have gone through. But you guys have been here the longest, like your ancestors. And one of the things that, you know, we both agreed is we left our country for a reason, because there was an American dream. It was a choice that was very hard for us to have, like not us because we were little, but like for my parents to have. But we made my parents made the conscious choice to say where we're at right now, it's not a place where I want my kids to live. So I want to give them something better. And we came here. You guys weren't given that choice. And that's, I think, what makes all the difference. Because if you guys were brought here and you guys were made slaves and you guys were torn away from your homeland, from your from your culture, then there should be something that big that should be given back to you guys to make things level out. It's never going to be 100% like, hey, I'm sorry I took you out of your motherland and then, you know, whatever. Like, that shit's horrible any way you want to see it. But I feel like me as a human being, if I robbed you of something, I would want to give you something back to make you feel like there was something that you lost, but you also didn't lose it all.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's, you know, I feel like that's what me and Kevin, that's where the conversation went, where, you know, immigrants that come here because they need to come here because of war, because they're escaping something, they still made that conscious decision to come here for a better life. And we've had it. Has it been perfect? No. Have we seen and gone through racial and systemic stuff? Yes, we have. But we made that choice. Or our ancestors did. You guys didn't have that. And I feel like you guys, something needs to be given back to you guys that was stolen from you. That's the way I feel about it. Because you know, just because you say, oh yeah, today you're not a slave, but if you keep doing things that are keeping you from reaching a certain goal or becoming of the 1% wealthy Americans, and, you know, living in a beautiful home and owning businesses and being able to buy homes when you know, like your children going to all these different amazing colleges, it needs to be the same as white people, you guys, and India, and, you know, Native Americans. If anything, Native Americans are the ones that need to be given everything.
Yep.
But damn, it pisses me off. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not much I can add to that because you basically nailed it, you know, and that's a lot of the anger and frustration that, you know, is out there now. That's why people are marching. That's why people are protesting. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, you can only be pushed down so many times for so long before you're like, look, mm-hmm. This is just, it's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
You know? And so like, you know, experiencing this your whole life, mm-hmm. This isn't new to the Black community. Right. None of this is new to us. It's new to a lot of other people because they haven't seen it and they haven't been living it. But, you know, to be called names, to know that you're not going to get a job because you're Black. Mm-hmm. I mean, as soon as you show for the interview and you pick up on those little microaggressions and those little words that they use and some, you know, all this undercover stuff, and you know they're not going to hire me. Because,
you know, it's so sad being in the managing side of everything. I remember a couple of times where they were like, no, not this one. And I was like, dude, why not? Their resume looks pretty good. Oh no, look at the name. Mm-hmm. I was like, are you serious right now? Are you kidding me? And that actually happened a couple of times, and it bothered me. And then I did say something, but nothing really was done about it.
Right.
Which is pretty sad. You just reminded me that was so crazy. I remember it happened to me twice, and I was like, wow, okay, well.
Yeah. Or like when I was I was managing a retail store at one point, and I was kind of asked, because I hired 2 Black people, and the whole staff was diverse, right? Mm-hmm. But the whole time that I had been there, we had not had any African American employees. Mm-hmm. And so I was, you know, told, well, why don't you do the hiring? You know, because the other person didn't want to do it. So I said, okay. And I hired based on the best applicants.
Right.
And so 2 of them happened to be African American. But there was a debate about hiring them. And I'm like, I don't understand, you know? What's the problem? And there was nothing really said. So, you know, and that's what I mean by, like, when I say microaggressions, because they're little tiny things that are done or said to kind of, you know, keep Black people down. Mm-hmm. You know,
like it's like a little reminder.
Yeah.
Of remember who you are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's exhausting. Mm-hmm. like the past few weeks, I've heard a lot of people say they're exhausted, you know, when they're on the news or they're being interviewed or something. They're like, I'm exhausted. I get it. It's exhausting being African American.
Wow, that's sad. That is so
It is.
sad to hear from you, because you're my friend. I know.
I'm just being honest.
Heart emojis.
We're going to just have the conversation,
Have the
and talk about stuff that's hard.
It is.
Yeah.
We're going to leave that with the fact that we, you know, it starts, most people don't believe that it starts with you. I think like we've heard it so many times and we're like, yeah, whatever. But at the end of the day, it does start with you. And it does make a difference if you just have the conversation. And if you are a teenager and go on TikTok and decide to ruin the president's, you know, rally that was held in Tulsa. It makes a difference. One conversation, one step towards a positive change makes a difference.
Yes.
So
I think that's a good point to end on.
I feel like that's why we started it. And, you know, I don't think we're both sitting here like, oh my God, we're going to go famous. And, you know, I'm going to go live on top of a house in the hills right next to the Kardashians. But I feel like our friends are watching, and I know for sure some of my friends don't know the history and why everything is happening. I for sure didn't know it. There is other ethnicities that are going through things that they should not be going through, and I'm sure that we're going to touch on everything that we have been seeing. But, you know, if you are in the states that need to be voting, go vote.
Yes, vote.
It matters. What you think matters. If you think that you should post it and it's something positive, post it. If it's not positive, don't post that. Please don't post that. There's too much negativity out there in the world right now. I love you. I respect you. I love all ethnicities. I have no problem with anybody. I love you. I love. And we're just going to keep having the conversation and having a good time.
Yes. Thank you. Love you
Till
too.
next time.